Hey everybody, this is Ron speaking on behalf of Ron and Dan. So, you listened to the first part in which we went through a bunch of my comic books. There are lots of comic books, lots of things to say, or at least many words. So now we're ready for part two. We took a little pause for a little bit and then came back, started recording again, and discovered this. We haven't been recording this whole time.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of sorting done.
Oh.
I mean, we also have like 2 hours for the other.
The first part, oh my god.
Yeah, but you have Secret Wars #8, dude.
Yeah.
This is a happy day.
Well, this is the lost episode again.
The last episode. So many comics.
I'm gonna get some water
Okay.
so that I have enough water for the tears.
Yeah, if you have a complete run of Secret Wars with 8 too, and it looked like the rest of those were in pretty good shape.
I probably don't have #1 because my friend that screwed me out of some stuff. I used to have Punisher #1, which isn't worth that much.
No, Punisher number. No, the big Punisher book is Amazing Spider-Man 126, I think it is.
His actual first appearance.
Yeah.
So,
This is kind of the fun of the retail profession. Is it's sort of like parts of it feel like Christmas, but you're not taking it home with you.
We've been going through, Dan's been sorting through comics and telling me about them, and I've been telling him a little bit about, like, my buying them and whatnot, and I forgot to hit record. And that's been about, half an hour's worth? And the irony is that the reason for this is that I paused. I wanted to stop earlier because I was afraid if we lose anything, we'll only lose part of it. So I wanted to save the first hour and then start again. So instead, we lost the second part. Because
Who knows what happened? There's a lot of comic books here. I've got one box sorted out. I'm going to grab another box.
Can we go through? Can we talk about just one thing though?
Oh yeah, totally.
In the binder, there was the Crisis in Infinite Earth #1, and you were telling me about sending it in or whatnot.
Yeah, because it's been in a bag and board. I'm guessing that there's probably minimal fingerprints on it if you put it under a duster. If the pages are completely white, that could be, like, it doesn't look like there's any actual condition issues with it, so long as there's no writing and there's no, like, subscription stuff cut out of it.
Definitely not.
I guess, yeah, probably not. I mean, at least to my eyes, that looks like a 9.5, 9.8 comic.
No. Are you serious?
Yeah, that's what they look like. I mean, it's just like, part of it has to do with the printing, so, like, sometimes you get comics and they wouldn't be centered on the staples, and that can be a condition issue. That looks like it was printed right. It's
so do we take it out and look at it, or do we just send it and they grade it? Because this is one of those that
if
you send
take
someone.
It out, I mean, the Secret Wars might even be worth sending, because that's the most valuable book in the lot by, like, a wide margin.
Okay.
That's not in as good shape as the Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's still in pretty good shape. It depends. Some people will, if they're buying key comics, they'll buy CGC graded stuff basically because then they don't have to rely on the seller at all.
Okay.
For condition grading notes.
Okay.
It's basically like an agreed upon arbiter of sort of like somebody who inspects, jewelry or something, and you get the person to say, like, yes, I verify this is a real thing and X, Y, and Z about it.
Can you just explain what the CGC is?
Oh, CGC, there's a couple companies that do this. CGC is the biggest one. They grade comic books professionally, essentially. You send your comics to them very carefully. Usually only very expensive comic books. And for $60, they have somebody look at it with a microscope, check for fingerprints, you name it, this, that, the other thing.
Wow.
And they send it back with notes. The reason to do this basically is that some comics that aren't necessarily worth a ton as, like, what would be called reader copies or mid-grade copies, and I wouldn't say, like, there's maybe like 3 or 4 books in here I would call mid-grade copies. The rest of these are at least mid to high, because they just haven't. The thing that destroys comics, like, a lot of people think it's storage, and that can destroy comics if you don't store it correctly. But generally, if they're flat and they're not being handled that frequently, that usually is what keeps comics in very good condition.
Okay.
So this stuff's all in, like, excellent condition.
Yeah, almost all of these, I'd read them once, and then I put them upright in my bookcase, and it was on the floor. The bookcase, it was the bottom shelf. I think then it was 2 shelves, and it was the farthest point away from the window, so there was no sunlight beating down on it.
Yeah,
and it wasn't a very well lit room.
On the box, there's not a lot of air getting to it because air can degrade the paper.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like they're flat-lying books, so if they're closed all the time, the air's not really going to get to much. That's why like the edges of comics will tend to yellow a little bit faster than the rest because there's more air exposure.
Okay. Well, they did for a few years.
Everything you ever wanted to know about how comic books go bad, folks.
Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't used to keep my window open that much because I would start sneezing, so there wasn't very good air circulation in the room either. It was just kind of, it would be still. I don't know if that helped. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, so long as they're not in humidity, if they're in humidity for a long time, that can create a lot of problems, obviously, because paper tends to stick together when things are, getting sticky.
So did you notice, actually, I didn't even consider this. So this, I know, keep going back to the Secret Wars #8 because I'm so excited.
Yeah, you should be.
It's bagged and boxed because I don't think the rest of the Secret Wars are because I'd missed.
We should get bags. Bags and boards are dirt cheap. It's like $5 for 100 bags and then like $6 for 100 boards.
I used to put books or something next to them so they won't fall over because I wanted them all to stand up straight.
That's important, and that's good because like the only ones that weren't standing up straight ended up kind of like, well, those guys.
Yeah, they kind of curled.
Which is
and
good
it's the newest ones.
Only the newest ones. So we're both going to be old men by the time those are worth money.
And some of those were bagged and boxed. they're the new ones. It's the entire run of the Loki series from a few years ago, and the entire run of the Thor with the female Thor series. And I can't remember if this was on the recording or not. I don't think this got recorded, but her name is Thor, not Lady Thor. She is just as much Thor as any other Thor, as like that blonde Thor from the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The Thor...
Maybe even more of one than Beta Ray Bill.
Oh my God. That name is really familiar.
He's like the one that looks like a bull that's in the Walter Simonson Thor issues a lot. Or like he basically looks like a cow in a Thor costume.
Oh, he might be in that Thor's issue.
Oh, probably.
Where there's about 10 different
like
Thors.
Thor, they took some cues from the
Hulk
Green
Planet?
Lantern comics, I thought, where there's like a lot of different like variant Thors at one point.
Oh, okay. Elvira House of Mystery #1.
That was
wow.
I owned that comic book as a kid. I would have figured some things out earlier.
I should have figured something. Well, no, actually,
the woman who played Elvira, she lost her virginity to Tom Jones. Apparently,
no, are you serious?
Like not a very considerate lover. Like, man, that was a bad sex.
Wow. I remember when she used to introduce movies on TV, and the costume was revealing.
Yeah, she was gorgeous. Justice League, all the Justice Leagues are coming together because everything else is.
Random.
That's a good thing is if you can get enough of the stuff sorted and like out of the pile, the rest of it becomes so much easier to organize.
Uh-huh. Oh, what was that? It was like Starlog magazine or something?
Yeah, I'm putting all the magazines together in one box because they're the same size.
Oh, okay. Right, they're bigger than the comic book.
Yeah.
Oh, and then there's the Mad magazines. Oh, Mad or Crack.
Yeah, and those are all standard size because they're made for, those retailer racks.
Yeah. I used to read Mad magazine and Cracked so much.
Me too.
Yeah. Now, Mad magazine, they're
that was like
stopping.
Part of growing up at a certain point. Yeah, Mad magazine is no more. And Cracked outlived Mad magazine. Who would have thunk?
Wait, is it still a print magazine?
No. I mean, Cracked hasn't been a print magazine in a long time. And Mad is just like not anything now.
Uh-huh.
It's just like a floating intellectual property of Warner Brothers at this point.
Okay. But Cracked, is the Cracked website, is that from the Cracked magazine?
Yep.
The Cracked parody site?
Yeah, Cracked was bought out by like, I think an Israeli company, and they were like, all right, we're dumping, they tried to rebrand the magazine as like GQ mixed with like a lad magazine from England.
Wow.
So it'd be like movie gossip, stuff about how to like be a dude, but also like some humor content. And they figured out the website was just getting way more traffic than they were selling magazines. So they just quit selling the magazines and went straight to the website and got rid of any kind of like, there's not really, because like Cracked was 90% comics.
Yeah.
Back in the day. And
movie
the website
parodies.
had like no comics whatsoever. I mean, it's not even really parody stuff, most of it. There's like bits and pieces, but for the most part, just those listicles.
Wow.
Right?
That's so funny because Cracked magazine was, when I was buying it was the poor man's Mad.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't quite as funny and it wasn't quite as edgy. Instead of Alfred E. Newman, it had Sylvester P. Smith
Right.
or Smythe.
The janitor. janitor.
The janitor, right, who would show up all over the place.
The cartooning was never quite as good.
Yeah.
And you could kind of figure out, like, anything good in Crack Magazine was generally because either the person had not been discovered at all yet, because, like, Daniel Close's first published work is in Crack Magazine. The guy who did Ghost World.
Oh, Ghost World.
Ghost World, 8-Ball, David Boring,
all right.
Ice Haven, like, you know, one of the biggest names in comic. But yeah, he started out doing, like, no-name shit at Crack Magazine for a bit.
When was it? Like, what era?
It would have been the late 80s, so like 87-ish.
Okay. I stopped buying them then because I was buying them in the early '80s.
Like early Crack magazines are worth a decent. Like early knockoffs of Mad Magazine, because when Mad Magazine came out, there was literally nothing like it.
Yeah.
Like the closest thing I can even think of was
National Lampoon?
National Lampoon I think came after, like the print magazine version of National Lampoon came after Mad.
Oh, okay.
Punch, the British humor magazine, is a little bit like it, but it's not mostly comics.
Right.
And but yeah, after Mad Magazine came out, there were so many knockoffs, and a lot of them were actually really good because they were done by these like very talented, extremely thoroughly educated professional illustrators. One of them was even actually published by EC, like Mad. It was called Panic. It only ran for like 12 issues in the 50s, but
okay.
God, I mean, there's a couple of them that Harvey Kurtzman ran himself because he got kicked off of Mad Magazine after issue 28, 2 issues after it changed from a comic book into a magazine.
These names are so familiar.
I mean, Harvey Kurtzman is like the second most important person. So, like, for my money, and granted, comic books have been a pretty dude-dominated medium for a very long time, so excuse omissions here. But at least in terms of U.S. comics, the 5 most important people in the genesis of them, I would say, are like George Harriman, the guy who did Crazy Cat.
Okay.
Harvey Kurtzman, Mad Magazine. Like, if you look at Watchmen is basically a long tribute to all the superhero parodies in Mad Magazine, down to like panel layouts being nearly identical.
Wow.
Jack Kirby, obviously. Carl Barks, the guy who did all the Uncle Scrooge and Donald Duck comics for Disney in the 40s and 50s.
I used to own a few of those when I was a little kid.
Like a big stack of them over there. Yeah.
And you had a number 5.
And number 5, I would say probably like Robert Crumb or somebody like that.
Okay. And which one of them would you say was the best part of the Princess Diaries?
Oh, definitely Robert Crumb. Like, that came out of left field. Oh, yeah, and speaking of Beta Ray Bill, here's Beta Ray Bill.
Oh, okay, that's why I was... Okay, him I recognize. Yeah, he's really creepy looking.
Oh, and Vaughn Bodie. Funny, your only underground comic in this whole thing's a Vaughn Bodie comic.
Who's that?
He's an underground cartoonist. He was a little bit after like the Crumb era, the like initial wave of underground comics. He did a lot for the New York Press free newspaper in the 80s, I believe. And the Beastie Boys were obsessed with him.
Okay. Wait, can I see, which one is that? Oh, the Miami Mice. I remember getting that. I was never a fan of the show, but I remember seeing Miami Mice and like, I gotta get that. Miami Mice comic. Premiere issue. The guy who owned the comic book store downtown, I used to just kind of, from the time I was maybe 12, I would just loiter there all day if I didn't have anything to do. So he just kind of handed me whatever came into the store that he thought was good. And I ended up reading a lot of things that probably I was not old enough to actually, I should not have been reading at my age, let's say. They had me like Catcher in the Rye or something. I just like got really into that graphic novel. Hey, for what it's worth, I have a friend whose dad took him to see A Clockwork Orange when he was 12. That was when I saw it. But oh, really? Took it out from the library. And my dad just remembered, like, I saw this in college. I remembered it being interesting. And he took it out, and I was watching. I didn't understand 90% of what was going on. Except that there's some, a little bit of, let's say, violence. Yeah, there's something inappropriate's going down. Yeah. Actually, I don't know how many times I saw it in the past, and I haven't seen it for several years. And I saw it about half a year ago. It was in the theater, and I could not believe that this is what I'd watched all these times. I came away with this really nasty feeling. It's not that I never felt before. I felt like maybe that was not a good.
I think that was my first Kubrick movie.
Yeah, not a good first one.
Yeah, and I think I kind of walked away from that, and it was around the same time I saw Pulp Fiction. I was like watching a lot of movies. I hadn't found like John Cassavetes or any of that kind of stuff yet, and it was. I didn't remember being that impressed with it. I think partially because I was way too young to understand any of it, but also just, it has like this, it's not a nice movie. You don't really get a clear assurance from the style or any of there's not enough moral outrage to not kind of get the sense like the filmmaker is secretly kind of getting off on filming all of this.
Oh, totally. I agree. Well,
which for me, that was what kind of killed that movie for me.
Although
a lot of the time.
So when I first saw it, I was 15, so it was only a few years older. And I remember, talking to my friend about it and about the music and the singing in the rain. And my friend said, my friend who had told me to watch it, it was where I first heard Singing in the Rain. And he said, yeah, now, thanks to Kubrick, that's what you associate Singing in the Rain with. And that's what, I don't know what I'm trying to say. He worded it so well. It was my friend who did the movie reviews. But it
subverts the song, I guess.
It subverts it, but it becomes the new association, and just the kind of sort of the Lodovico technique, and going through some the psychological the conditioning right. that's involved, and people, the government, the artists, whatever, they change your view and associations with things to some degree, and against your will, right? I didn't want to associate Singing with the Rain with this violent, horrific rape scene. But now that's how I knew it.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a lot of why like Fred Astaire, I think, has maintained a much better critical profile than Gene Kelly. I mean, granted, Astaire did a lot more on the movies. There's more good Astaire movies than there are Gene Kelly movies, but I mean, I definitely think that sunk it. Yeah, because like if it had, granted, you couldn't really have like imagine Clockwork Orange, but the song that he's singing when he goes in is like the theme from Top Hat. Right, like it's a very different movie. You ever seen that one, the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers? Top Hat? Yeah. Or like, I'm trying to think of like a famous Fred Astaire song, but
well, none of them are famous.
It's kind of weird that it had to be the Gene Kelly song. Like there was something inherently creepy about Gene Kelly that was not creepy about Fred Astaire.
Oh, you think so?
To Stanley Kubrick.
Oh well, okay. Oh well, I was thinking the whole idea is that the song is kind of.
I mean, there's like
beautiful.
Creepy. You ever seen Carefree with the Astaire and Rogers?
No.
Where what is it like? Fred Astaire is a Freudian psychoanalyst, and like there's stuff where he's like hypnotizing Ginger Rogers, and like it ends with her getting slapped to go out of hypnosis, and it's like, what? It's one of those kind of like, how did this get made even then movies?
Yeah.
It definitely has aged the worst out of anything, but it also is like a historical curiosity. It's just so bizarre.
Wait, I'm confused. Who did you say was the creepy one?
Well, apparently Gene Kelly, because he had like the underlying viciousness that would have drawn Stanley Kubrick to associate that scene with Singing in the Rain versus anything Astaire did.
I'm thinking quite the opposite in that it was this, he's fallen in love, and it's sweet and loving, and how he goes and he's dancing in the street in the rain, jumping in the puddle and all that, because he's so head over heels in love. And Stanley Kubrick turns it upside down on its head. So this is Batman Year One.
I can check the spine on those. They look like they're in really good shape.
So this is, again, Batman 4 through 407. It's the Frank Miller Batman with, who's the artist?
David Mazzucchelli, who was actually college friends with Elizabeth's mother.
Oh, no kidding. Elizabeth, the podcast.
Because they both went to... Oh, these are all in really, really good shape, too. Probably not worth sending just because I was looking up the prices, but possibly worth hanging on to as investments if you choose to hold on to any of these things.
Maybe. Where should I put it? I remember.
Put it with the Secret Wars 8.
Okay.
That'll be like the big stuff pile.
Maybe as the four together are worth something.
Yeah, four together definitely worth something, and also that's like the let's bag this stuff as soon as we can pile.
Okay, which you just did, so thank you.
Yeah, so it's a history. So I'm going to put this with the Crisis stuff.
Oh, but so Batman Year One.
Okay.
So that was after Dark Knight Returns came out, and then he went and did this for the main series, and kind of redid the origin story. But I remember reading this, and it was the only time that I ever wrote a fan letter to send to the comic book. I never did, but I remember talking about how amazing the writing is and how amazing the art is. And I especially remember the picture of Bruce Wayne sitting in a chair. I think he was in the chair, and he says, "I shall become a bat," and that was just that like blew me away. Enough to write a fan letter that I never sent. I'm sorry, you were about to say something, and I don't want to stop.
No,
you bagged Micronauts. Yeah.
Oh no, that was no. I the only thing I bagged was the Secret Wars. Anything else that's bagged was because it was bagged when I got here.
More Secret Wars. Oh, that's Secret Wars number 8.
Number 8 is like a whole other story compared to this. I'm gonna guess, like, if you're saying this is still a thing, this might be worth some money because there are people who collect role-playing stuff pretty intensively.
I want to look that up. So what this is in the middle of all this, so there are a few of the games things and the comic books. There is something called Paranoia, the player handbook for Paranoia, and this is a game that came out in the 80s. This is from 1984, and it looks like it's a first printing. And this is a role-playing game, but it's kind of a weird, twisted role-playing game in which it's in this dystopian future. Everybody lives in this one big giant complex, and it's all run by a computer. And it's paranoia because it's not clear who's on whose side. You're actually all trying to. Maybe you're trying to fight the computer, and maybe you're trying to work with the others around you, and then maybe you're actually trying to work with a computer and turn the other people in as enemies of the computer. So it's all at any point you might be working with the others or not, and nobody really trusts anyone else. But sometimes you have to trust each other to get stuff done, and sometimes you have to work with each other against the computer, and sometimes you have to turn them in. And so it's a pretty funny game, or fun in a game. So it was. I know it's been re-released recently because I played it with some friends. We tried different role-playing games.
Oh wait, this is all this is weird. Okay, so do you know who Gardner Fox is?
I remember the name Gardner Fox. Well, wasn't Gardner Fox involved with those Justice Societies?
Gardner Fox was the guy writing Justice League for most of the 50s.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's reprints of his Golden Age or like really early Silver Age stuff in this like weird British. So like in England, they usually repackage U.S. comics in a lot of the magazines.
Okay.
So like this is...
What is it? The Superheroes, Volume 1, Number 11.
Right.
40 pence.
And it looks more like 2000 AD. It's bigger pages, black and white art, roughly magazine size. It's kind of neat that this made it over here.
So this is Hawkman and Batman. So was this originally printed in the U.S. and then they reprinted it in bigger size?
I'm going to guess, yeah. The story based on how Joe Kubert is drawing it, this was probably published in an actual DC comic, 1958 maybe, 59-ish.
I just want to take a look. Because sometimes they'll say originally appeared in, right? Or originally published in?
Yeah, but I think that has to do with U.S. copyright law, not necessarily the style standards of the...
Oh, okay. On the back it says, The Superheroes number 11 by Brian Talbot, published in UK by London Editions magazine, copyright 1981 DC Comics, Inc. Let's see when this actually came out. No, 1981. Oh, there's a little writing in there that says 50 cents or whatever. Oh, here we go. Creature of a Thousand Shapes, The Origin of Hawkman and Biff, which first appeared in Brave and the Bold number 34. Next month's issue, what's in store, editor's letter. Okay, page 29. The Justice League of America star in Earth's Final Hour first appeared in JLA number 86. Okay, so these are reprints of what originally appeared elsewhere. The first one is Hawkman, and the second one is Justice League of America, as I just read. Don't miss these DC Super Annuals. Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, the Superheroes. So it's kind of like, it's named like Super Friends. Hey, should we watch an episode of the Fruit Super Friends after this? I think it's most appropriate.
It's never been more appropriate, I think, than today.
Spider-Ham!
Spider-Ham.
Dan is looking at a tattered copy of Shazam from, let's see.
Oh, wait. Oh, this is really weird.
What?
No. Okay, so this is actually drawn by the original Captain Marvel artist.
Huh.
But it's written by like DC's kind of hired hand guy in the 70s, Denny O'Neil, who ended up becoming a chief story editor, I believe, at Marvel Comics for a long time.
Oh, C.C. Beck. You've mentioned him multiple times.
C.C. Beck, and this is all original C.C. Beck, which is weird because I don't think I've ever seen original C.C. Beck art from after like 1945, because Captain Marvel was initially popular. Captain Marvel was much more popular in England than in the United States.
So here they call him Captain Marvel. They keep saying Captain Marvel, but wasn't in 1974? I thought the lawsuit had already been done by then.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess not. Shazam, the name. Oh, that's right. Okay, this is the period in which the comic book had to be called Shazam, but he was still called Captain Marvel.
Okay.
They couldn't call the comic book Captain Marvel. But this is great because considering the whole lawsuit. Okay, it's DC because it's got Superman and Captain Marvel in the same comic book.
DC has always owned the rights to Shazam.
Yeah. Oh, does this stay in this pile?
I mean, the pile again. I was just kind of going through and being like, what is a fair offer for this stuff?
Okay.
/ what is... I believe I have this issue of... Yeah, I definitely have this issue of Bean World, but you ever read Bean World?
Well, I mean, I read that issue. This was the you wanted stuff.
Yeah, this was the I'm going to take some of this off your hands now so that you feel like you got something accomplished today. So I'm trying to figure out what's what.
There's that big boy comic. I should just go through it once or maybe I should just not look at it. I was going to say I should go through once and see if there's anything I want to keep, but probably not. Oh wow, 2010, the comic book based on the movie. And look at that, the Little Shop of Horrors movie. What am I trying to say? Not reprint. Movie
adaptation. The official adaptation. Oh, and here's an ad for Secret Wars.
Yeah, nice.
Can't avoid it. Oh, this still looks pretty crazy, though.
The what? Oh, yeah, it's the monolith.
Yeah, I thought it was... It's funny, he doesn't usually draw in this style.
Dan took 2010 out of the bag. Take a look at it.
Coming out of the bag. No, this is done by the guy they would have do all the licensed G.I. Joe comics. So, little known fact, most of the... it's like Transformers and G.I. Joe, we think of them as having, extensive universes, storylines, and whatnot. They were originally toys, obviously.
Uh-huh.
Most of the storyline came from just random guys at Marvel Comics that were hired to write the comics for them.
Uh-huh. I'm looking up, I'm trying to see Paranoia, how much the player book is going for on eBay. No, Adventure Handbook. Player Handbook. Paranoia, Player Handbook, first edition, 1984, white box. 3 books, no dice, $52.50. Wait, 3 books? Oh, that must include the Game Master. I wonder how much it is just for the Player's Handbook. I could look at it. Oh no, here we go. Player Handbook.
How much you say?
$10. $10 for the Player Handbook.
Oh, okay.
Because it doesn't have the Game Master guide or whatever.
Might be in that. There's a ton of random stuff in that box that had the D&D manuals in it.
No, I probably only had that because we had to get it when we were playing. I remember when we played it. I remember where I was, and so I had to get that. So just the Player Handbook to learn the player side and how to play it. And then one of them was the Game Master, which would have been then 86, 87. Oh, okay, this is funny. When we were playing, it might have been that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember how it came up, and they're talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And they're trying to remember the names. And he said 2 of the names. I don't know, Raphael and Donatello. And then they were trying to remember the others. And I said Michelangelo, Leonardo. And they're like, yeah, that's it. So how do you know them? It's like, I know the artists. And I'm like, you know the artists of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? I'm like, it's like, yeah. It's like, how do you know? And he named the name of the creator. And I was like, no, I mean from history. Raphael, Donatello, Leonardo, Michelangelo. They're all famous artists.
They probably... Those guys are insanely rich at this point.
Yeah.
Because that, blew it. Because that was just a photocopied Daredevil parody. It's
Wow.
literally all it was.
Uh-huh.
There wasn't supposed to be a second issue. The reason the first issue is worth so much money is because they only printed 200 of them, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Because it was supposed to be just a joke on, dark, gritty 80s rebooted, reimagined comics.
Uh-huh.
And then suddenly we're 5 animated TV shows. God knows how many movies.
Yeah.
And so the good news is I've nearly finished sorting all of these.
Toys, all the toys.
All the toys.
Oh, hey. Oh, this is neat.
Oh, JLA.
Superman Secret Origins, the Golden Age Superman, beginning the new series where each issues a collector's item. I love this. Everything's a collector's item.
Right. For like 20 years, everything was a fucking collector's item.
But this is the Golden Age, number of the Golden Age heroes looking in a crystal ball, and in the crystal ball is Superman holding a car, a green car that's being smashed with people running away. This is the cover of Action Comics number 1 by Roy Thomas, Wayne Boring, and Jerry Ordway. Oh, Roy Thomas. That's the Atom guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is
Jerry Ordway was like he either drew or inked everything in DC for like 10 years. I swear to God, we used to have so many Jerry Ordway comics. I think he might have co-created what was it called? Lobo.
Okay.
The like international bounty hunter dude. So this is where all the Star Trek is. Once they're in clumps, it won't be too hard to alphabetize them, which with this much stuff I would highly recommend it, especially if you're trying to sell it.
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Once it's in like uniform clumps by series, it's a lot easier to sell.
Okay.
Just because like you don't have to keep looking for everything all the time when things sell, because you know it's like a needle in a haystack.
Oh yeah. I mean, you see that everything here was so random. I wouldn't have known where to find anything. Can't find the movie.
That's why you never see a one-person comic book store. Like you'll see a one-person bookstore sometimes. A lot of like one proprietor record stores, but comic books it just takes so much time and effort to sort this stuff.
Some of these have like an X in the corner.
Oh yeah, that's because you bought them at a supermarket or newsstand.
No, I bought them at the Pike Place, either Pike Place or the place in. So I lived in Mercer Island, which was an island in the middle of Lake Washington, and you go I-90 runs right through it. That's how you get from the land on the one side to Seattle. So on the other side was Bellevue. Where I'd go get comics was usually at the place in Bellevue. I don't remember what it was called, but when they had the cheap used comics, it had this X in a corner. Oh wait, so did they get it?
It's a remainder thing.
Oh.
So it might have been, depending, was it like a strictly comic store?
It was a strictly comic store, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it might have just been like to definitively market as a remainder and keep away speculators.
Okay.
Because if you put a marking on the comic, generally speaking, like you're not going to get people trying to pick through to like resell the stuff behind your back, which was more of an issue back then before the internet kind of made that just how everything works.
Yeah. But yeah, those comics with the X in the corner were the ones where I'd buy. Like it was an old comic book. It was an old Doctor Strange for like 25 cents, or it was the everything.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been like they bought because I don't think at that point they tore the covers off when they remaindered comics from newsstands, so they might have had a deal with like specialty comic book stores could make deals with distributors, because distributors could be like, oh, okay, we don't have to throw out all this stuff we just printed or like destroy it. We could just resell it after the newsstand sends it back to us, but with this X on the cover for cheap. So maybe they were getting like a regular. Well, actually, the old Doctor Strange. You're talking about that thing from the '60s, right?
Yeah. I think that's what had the X in the
thing
corner.
for that. Oh yeah, that's really common on '60s comics, because in the '60s there weren't comic book stores. You could only buy them from a newsstand.
Oh, here, like you see it on this old Shazam.
Yeah. So that means that I mean, if it's an old enough comic book. Sometimes they would X out the price if they tried to sell it at a different price at a certain point, kind of like how used books, a lot of time you'll have the price clip dust jacket issue.
Shazam Volume 1, Number 1 from 1973. Torn in the upper left-hand corner, X'd out with a Sharpie on the upper right corner.
Yeah, so like in CGC terms, the fact that it's missing part of the cover is a big condition knock. Otherwise, I would say that's about like a 5.0 book.
Okay.
Not worth sending in, but like
right.
That's the difference between like a 5.0 book. You can have, honestly, yeah, I think actually 5.0, given the age of it, is pretty appropriate, because there's not a lot of yellowing on the pages. But you have like staple issues, there's some weakness around the staples, a lot of spine stress marks, the writing obviously.
They tore out the corner because that's where the price was. Because you can see on this other Shazam, the price is still there.
Yeah, so it might have been, probably was to get rid of the price, because they were selling it secondhand, that they were not a comic book store. Before whoever never got it before you got it.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I got it in the 80s, not in
X-
1973.
Yeah, the X could be anything from like, some newsstands might sell the stuff at like a discount afterwards if they don't want to deal with the distributor and returns process. Any number of things, it could have been, like you still get remainder comic, like Boomerang over on Center Street. They'll get a lot of like returns from the local comic book store.
Oh, really?
They'll have markings on them where it's just kind of like, this is wrong with it,
Okay. I was telling Dan about my comic books before I went and got them out of storage and describing stuff to him, and I started telling him that I marked them all with my name with a Sharpie so that nobody would try and take them away from me, to make it clear that they're mine. And then actually in some of them, I used to, if I didn't like the coloring, if I disagreed with it, I used to go in and draw in.
I actually did that with comic books when I was really little.
Oh, really?
Like, I remember my cousin gave me this, like, Superman Elseworlds comic, and, like, I don't know if he never explicitly said, like, I'm giving this to you, but it just was sort of, like, in my bag when I left.
Uh-huh.
God, I must have been, like, 4 at that point, because I learned how to read entirely with comic books.
Uh-huh. Well, yeah, when I was a kid, so I was probably like 5, 6, and my dad somehow got a hold of a pile of Uncle Scrooge and Richie Rich, and I remember some Robin Hood comic book that like some of it was like for older, and I didn't grow up reading English. Speak or read English very well.
What are they called? There was one company that would put out basically like these kind of sober-looking adaptations of classic books. Illustrated classics, it was probably Illustrated Classics Robin Hood.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was Robin Hood. There was Treasure Island. Wait, Treasure Island? Yeah. Robinson Crusoe. And kind of I don't know, I was a little disturbed by them. The Moby Dick. I remember the picture of Call Me Ishmael and him in the coffin floating in the water. But no, those Richie Riches and Uncle Scrooge. Oh yeah, I totally went through them with crayon.
Oh yeah, that's just like that's kind of what comic books are for when you're that age.
Uh-huh. They're kids things.
They're kids things. So what else needs to go on that pile? Which thing was the Suicide Squad you were talking about? Because there's the first 2 issues of it here, but you were saying that there was a first appearance of them in some other book, Legends, I think.
Oh no, I just meant. Oh wait, I'm not sure. I thought I just meant that I had the first issue of the new Suicide Squad.
Oh, okay.
And that was actually, I looked it up, and I think that was worth something. I'm pretty certain that was worth something.
The first appearance, because you have, let's see, do you have all Legends? You have, say, 5, 6, 4, 2.
Probably.
2, 3,
I'd be surprised if I don't.
1, 2, 3. No, you're missing some. I think. Or wait, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, it's 6 parts. No, okay, you got all of it.
Okay.
So I believe, and maybe this is something we should look up on the phone, but the first appearance of the new Suicide Squad, I believe, is in issue 3. Yeah, it's a Send for the Suicide Squad. Yeah, so that's one for the pile.
What is it? DC Legends number 3?
Yeah, DC Legends 3, and the cover should look like this with the Suicide Squad on the bottom right there.
Okay, I will look it up right now. See if I could find anything about it. Yeah, because these were just, I don't know, random ones that I saw. I looked them up. Oh, $25.
That's pretty good for a single comic. Oh, more Secret Wars.
This is the Secret Wars pile, right?
11, 12. This is, like Secret Wars and things that should be researched just because that's probably where the money is.
Well, this person is selling Legends number 3 for $295. Oh, CGC. Okay.
CGC, what grade?
It says Legends number 3 SSCGC with signature. It has John Ostrander's signature. Yeah.
Okay.
So what does SS stand for here?
It's something signature or signature series. It's a thing in signature series. So it's a thing that they do at CGC where they grade it and they verify that it's actually signed by the person you're claiming it was signed by. So they basically hired a signature expert and have them help with that.
So both of those might be worth something.
Yeah.
So what was it? It was. Should that go in this pile?
Yeah, we can.
Or that pile. Sorry, I'm pointing to the to be research pile or the the Secret Wars number 8 pile. Oh, all of them. Okay.
Yeah, just to keep them in a group.
Yeah, I guess I got all the Legends and a bunch of Suicide Squads.
I feel like this is going for something, although there probably are a lot of copies of it out there. But
Well, now that Into the Multiverse came
the
out,
Spider-Verse thing, that's the reason I think.
Dan was pointing to Spider-Ham #1. Marvel Tales starring
Well,
Peter...
it's Marvel Tales #1. You actually also have Spider-Ham #1. So
Oh, I have
it's
two
a
things in
different. Yeah, there's 3 things in here, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait, should they be in different bags?
I
Or is
mean,
it
they
fine like
seem
that?
fine. So long as it's dry, you can stack comics.
All right. You said there's a
Fine,
third thing in there?
Issue 6 of
Okay.
Spider-Ham, but the one that is probably worth money is this one.
And
This
I want to
is
read
the
the
first
title.
ever issue.
All right, Marvel Tales starring Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, with Hulk Bunny and Captain Americat. That's Marvel Tales #1.
And it's a TAILS, because there was another series called Marvel Tales that was all Spider-Man reprints.
Marvel Tales. Oops.
Yeah, because the original Marvel Tales #1, I bet the 60s one's probably worth a couple bucks.
Yeah, $800 for Marvel Tales spelled correctly, issue 1.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not-
that makes
yeah,
sense, yeah, because that's like Key Silver Age book. That's the first reprint book that Marvel ever put out.
Let's see.
I'm going to guess that's closer to the 20 to 40 range.
Let's see. Very fine near mint, $85.
Wait, what?
Yeah, very fine, $70. FN plus, fine plus.
Yeah, so that would be, so I would guess that comic is around like an 8.5.
Let's see. So 8.0, $70, and 9.0, $85.
All right, yeah, so let's put it in.
Should it be in its own bag then?
Let's make a run to New England Comics has them for cheap. Basically, any comic book store you can walk in and say, just like, can I get a pack of bags and boards?
Okay.
So for now, I guess we'll just keep them like safe and
put it back in with the others?
I'm thinking I'll keep those in a separate box just so that like they don't accidentally get missed, like the stuff that's worth money that we know of.
Yeah.
Put it into its own box just so that it doesn't get mixed in with anything by accident and we forget about it.
Okay. No, but I mean, so this is the one that was in a bag with 3 other things. 3 other Spider...
Keep it in there, yeah, because they're
Okay.
probably keeping each other straight more than they're damaging each other.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess these are probably, they're not worth a ton, but these are probably worth something just because they're weird and I've never seen them.
Mm-hmm.
Except for like Archie, Archie puts out a ton of digest size stuff. DC never really puts out much digest size anything.
Okay.
So those are definitely.
So what Dan's pointing to is these, what they call the digest comics. They're rectangular, about a third of the size.
But they're like 100 pages each, so you can get like a lot of reprint. It's all reprints.
Yeah.
They very rarely ever published stuff, and they would do that. Like sometimes they'd have them like that. Sometimes they'd be like normal size paperback books. I have a Star Wars one of those.
Oh, cool. So let's see. These are the best of DC Blue Ribbon Digest. So we've got Sugar and Spike, which is more kids cartoony kind of thing. Year's Best Team Stories.
Oh, you have Punisher #1.
I do?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Where?
it's right here.
Oh, I thought he. Maybe I got it to replace what he. Oh no! I think I kept Punisher #1, but he got some Doctor Stranges off of me.
Oh, okay.
He got some Doctor Stranges off
like
of me.
Like these kind of Doctor Stranges.
Like those old Doctor Stranges.
Ooh, okay, this is like classic stuff. So I would say the next things we should look up in terms of value would probably be this.
Which is the Star Wars
100th issue, so it's the last issue of the Marvel run, if I'm remembering correctly.
Okay.
So that's probably worth something. This is also I would grade this as probably a 9.0.
Wow.
Yeah, there's like a little mark in the corner, but there's not much spine stress. I mean, this is probably worth some serious money.
What is this?
This is the first issue of the last Superman story in the pre-crisis continuity with Alan Moore.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's Alan Moore? Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, right. We read this earlier. A very special story by Alan Moore, Kurt Swan, and George Perez.
I have a
Superman number 423.
Yeah, because there's 2 issues in the story. I have a reprint of them, but I don't think I've ever seen the original comics before now.
Of
what happened to the Man of Tomorrow. That's like the ultimate Alan Moore Superman story.
Huh. Oh wait, you're saying you never saw this issue?
I never saw like the physical issue. I have a reprint of the whole thing on the shelf over there that DC came out with in the 90s. But that's one of my favorite. That's like the one where Bizarro decides that if he's going to be the exact opposite of Superman, he needs to be dead. Like, it gets really dark and weird.
Yeah.
Wait, is that Metamorpho? Oh, no, that's not Swamp Thing. That's Metamorpho. Or no, El Monstro. It's like knockoff Swamp Thing.
And what comic book was this?
This is World's Finest 220, which I'm gonna guess is probably in the $5 range, 5 to 10.
Let's see. This place says this Star Wars could go for $26.
26 in
2015 Marvel. I want issue list.
it would be like 78 Marvel probably, because that's when the series started to tie in with the first movie.
Very fine, $8.99.
Okay.
So it's
worth more than most issues of Star Wars except the first one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, how much is Secret Wars number 8 going for?
Oh, right.
While we're at it, yeah.
Let's see. Secret Wars 8 is it's the fourth thing that comes up. $140.
And condition would be like Paramount with that kind of book.
Let's see. 9.8 is $230. 9.6 is $140. What would you think that is? Or can you tell without kicking?
8.0, 8.5.
8.0 is $75. 8.5 $80. So.
Okay.
Cool.
So yeah, so you probably wouldn't want to send it into CGC, but that's still like a lot of money for a comic book that you bought for 50 cents.
Yeah. 75.
So let's see. So we got Superman. 428, 427.
Oh, 423.
423, yeah.
Superman, first series, 423. Fine, very fine. 920. That's a 7.0.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
good. 7.0.
So
Let's
like
just
an
have high
8.
grade. Very fine 8.0, but I think this is CGC. Yeah, here, CGC 9.6, $57.
Whoa, okay.
Very fine 8.0, $75. Oh,
Man.
we should look these up because of the.
So I'm just going to put like the squiggly so we know that it's approximate.
Okay. That's safe to put the sticky note on there?
Yeah.
As long as it's not fingerprint.
Yeah, you
with
can
oil?
get Scotch tape on these things, and they're fine. Like,
Okay.
I've gotten, like, the tape from the bag stuck on them before, and so I need to peel it off really carefully. Like,
Okay.
they're made to be not particularly... The major issue with this is it might fall off when it goes back in the thing, but... So let's see. So what was the other...
Maybe we could just stop recording and I could start using the computer to look stuff up.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the end of one day in which we managed to look at every single one of my comic books. We weren't sure exactly how many, maybe roughly somewhere between 500 to 1,000. It wasn't quite clear. You might have heard a lot of knocks, a lot of the crackling. The crackling was taking the books out of the bag sometimes or putting them back in. And sometimes it was just moving the pages. Early on, it was the podcat walking on the comic books and also sniffing and touching the computer. That's why it was especially loud while we were talking. But anyways, this was the end of the first day in which we looked at them. And next time we plan to actually do a little bit of pricing and also figuring out what comic books Dan wanted and if there's any in particular that I really want. So take care for now. This was a couple of parts of looking at the comic books. As you can tell, it was a long time. And now we're going to have a long time as well as we price out the comics. All right. Take care for now.